is up, guys? Doordash here, and coming to you this morning with a little video here because I wanted to go over. So I wanted to be, make sure that this is such an important point. I was on the live last night on Pedro's live, and I think there was a lot of confusion about what I was trying to say about base pay from everyone. I wasn't talking about hidden tips. I wasn't talking about any of that stuff, and I'm going to try to clarify some points, because I think it's very important that we understand exactly what it is we need to be focused on and what it is, where the area where Doordash is getting away with, and all the companies are, by not showing us the proper information. It has nothing to do with hidden tips. That's a distraction issue to keep you away from the real area. So I'm going to visually show you in this video what I'm talking about. First thing I did want to point out here is, again, I've shown this in other videos, but the relationship of parties. What I was trying to explain, number one, the first thing you've got to understand is it talks about the relationship that we have with the apps, and it talks about, and it states in here, the parties acknowledge and agree that this agreement is between two co-equal independent business enterprises that are separately owned and operated. The parties intend this agreement to create the relationship of principal and independent contractor and not that of employer and employee. The parties are not employees, agents, joint ventures, or partners of each other for any purpose. Neither party shall have the right to bind the other by contract or otherwise except as specifically provided in this agreement, including Section 22. So whether you're a 4-hour dasher or a 40-hour dasher, this applies to you. And it would be in your best interest to fully understand what that means before you work any further with them. There you have it, guys. Okay. So understand what that means. Doordash is saying they are a platform, not an employer. They are a platform to which we can get offers of generating revenue. And that is all they are. Nothing more, nothing less. That is it. So understand that. So once you understand that, let's talk about the pay. And now that we've been acknowledged as two businesses of co-equal independent enterprises that are separately owned and equal, meaning we are equal, meaning we are each entitled to see both sides of a contract prior to agreeing to said contract every time said contract is offered. So, payment for services. And this is another point. I was told last night that the TOS does not include payment for miles, duration, time, none of that, that the only thing is about desirability. Here is where it is included. Section 7.1, unless a different rate of pay is negotiated or contractor is notified otherwise by Doordash in writing or except as provided herein, contractor will receive payment for all contracted services fully performed in an amount consistent with Doordash's publicly provided pay model, which can be viewed here. Doordash reserves the right to adjust or withhold all or a portion of payment owed to the contractor if Doordash reasonably believes that contractor has defrauded or abused or attempted to defraud or abuse the Doordash platform. From time to time, contractor may be offered opportunities to earn more money for performing contracted services at specified times or in specified locations. Nothing prevents the parties from negotiating a different rate of pay, and the contractor is free to accept or reject any such opportunities to be paid at different pay rates. So there it is. If you click into there, and we click the here, it will take you to the Dasher pay page, which on that page, it is explained that Dashers are paid a base pay plus tips plus promotions. And they give you some information about that. What does base pay entail? Base pay entails exactly what I said it did. Time, distance, and desirability of order. So there it is. It is part of the TOS because it is attached to the publicly provided structure of pay that Doordash says. Doordash gets into it a little bit deeper here. So if you click into it a little deeper, Here is the base pay and the pay lined up as provided by Doordash. Base pay, which base pay is, it ranges from $2 to $10 plus, depending on the estimated duration, distance, and desirability of the order. Deliveries that are expected to take more time, that require dashers to travel a longer distance, and that are less popular with dashers have a higher base pay. So, this is what I was saying last night. When you focus on this part, which is the only part that matters, right here, base pay, time, distance, desirability. We should be seeing a breakdown on every offer that's offered of what they're paying us for each of those three things, not just a flat base pay. The issue is that if they're supposedly paying us for the time, distance, and desirability on that portion of the pay, we need to understand how a 10-mile journey is paid out at one range. What is the amount that they're paying so that we can see the consistency? Because the problem is, if you're paying $225 on a 1 mile journey and $225 on a 10-mile journey, they're in line, and that has happened to me many times. Therein lies the problem, because Doordash is not then paying extra money for the time and distance difference. And the desirability obviously means that was a desirable order, or desirable enough to accept that order without having to make that adjustment. But the time and the distance should be being adjusted on every single order based on the differences of time and distance, and it is not. And the base pay is the area that we should all be focused on. The promotions and tips are things that exist separately from base pay and should exist separately from the payouts. And that is where Doordash plays with the numbers, because the customer, the restaurants, are paying the fees regardless of the size of the tip, to which Doordash gets to keep a larger portion of those fees based on how high the tip is, by simply saying, okay, we're going to flat pay $225, even though this is a 16-mile journey or a 10-mile journey or 11-mile journey. We're just going to pay that dasher $225 because the customer tipped $20. And then they keep the difference. Even though they've charged the merchant and they've charged the customer additional money for those factors, they're keeping the money. I don't know how much clearer I can get on this. Yesterday, it was all focused on tips. I'm not saying Doordash is keeping tips. They're not keeping the tips. They're passing the full tip on. But what they're doing is they're keeping base pay, more base pay than they should, because they're not consistently paying a consistent model of base pay. That is the biggest problem that exists in the gig economy, because they are not using a consistent base pay model. And this is across the board, although some of them do, but they don't show it to us. And that base pay calculation lives in darkness. And transparency is needed around base pay and not tips. What they do is they distract us by hiding the tips and making us focus on asking for full tip transparency. Well, that's not really where it's going to make a difference, because the tip is an end of order situation. It should be, at least. The base pay plus any promotion, peak pay challenges, whatever, are the two pieces of pay that should be the main driving factors behind whether or not an order is accepted. And it's not, because they basically are saying, we'll eliminate base pay and just let the customer tip the dasher, and let the tip represent almost the entirety of the earnings. And that is a problem. Now, as for the issue, can you change a tip after the fact? Negative or positive, you can, and I would encourage you to call support and ask, because I have called in and asked, and they ask you for why and what happened and why you want to change your tip. But you can absolutely take a tip away. But it says right here in the policy to the customer that yes, you can place during delivery. It gives you all the examples. Add a tip in the app. Now, I did a little example here. Obviously, this is the breakdown of what you just saw of how base pay, promos, how it all lays out. You've got base pay and promo. which are the two guaranteed forms of pay, and then you got tips, which is variable and can be changed, as I showed you. This is what, now again, this is me writing it on my screen, so I apologize. It doesn't look very, it's not, official or whatever, but an offer screen should look something like this. And again, this is what a actual offer screen that is actually would be official binding, contract, an appropriate contract offer to us would be, that says you're being offered $347 for distance, $3 for the duration of the order, that's a projection, and $2 desirability addition because it's been maybe sitting for a while or nobody wants it or the restaurant, whatever it might be. But DoorDash has figured that there's a $2 desirability kicker, which means your base pay is $847. There's no promos in effect right now, and the customer tipped $5 prior to the order being when the order was placed, which means you would make $13.47 if you accepted said offer. And obviously the miles would be in there that say, well, $3 or $3.47 distance represents 8.7 miles, 2.7 miles, 6.7 miles, whatever it is, and that's what the offer would be. And then we would be able to look at this and say, okay, we agree with it, we don't like it, and we would turn it down or accept it. And then they would go in, and obviously the only thing that would change from offer to offer, dasher to dasher, should be the desirability, as long as a dasher is in the same proximity. However, this is where the incentive for DoorDash can say, okay, if I have a dasher sitting near that restaurant, then the distance would be $2 and the duration would be potentially $2.50, and the desirability would be maybe $2.50 because it had to get passed along or passed around, and you'd have a new total base pay. This is what an offer screen should look like. This is how it should be being done in a properly working market. I also wanted to demonstrate to you what fees are being charged to the customer. So if there's, here is a breakdown of what the customer is claiming or what DoorDash charges the customer on certain orders and certain fees. So here we go. And again, I want you to take into account that dasher pay at this point is normally a flat-based fee. The customer isn't seeing that. So here it is. These are the fees that they charge. A service fee, that's paid on every single order. Starts at 60 cents and changes based on order subtotal. Happens regardless of whether or not there's a dash pass. Delivery fee, charged on delivery orders and helps DoorDash cover costs associated. However, Dash Pass members can get $0 in delivery fees and reduce service fees based on the Dash Pass program. So the service fee can go down based on Dash Pass, but DoorDash is still going to receive that. Small order fee. In some cases, this fee is charged to enable to make small transactions worthwhile to fulfill, meaning code to the customer. They're paying Dashers extra because it's a smaller order. It's a smaller distance. It's a smaller amount. Do they pass that on? Does a Dasher get more money? No, they don't. We all know some Dashers are getting as low as $2 and even lower than that if it's a stack, or they will stack a small order on top of a big order to make up for the fact that it's a small order while collecting a fee and telling the customer that, guess what? It's a small order fee and you're paying extra because it's small. So the customer doesn't tip more because they're getting charged more. But yet, DoorDash is keeping that money. Expanded range fee. Oh, this is a great one too, right? Because DoorDash is telling the Dasher and they're telling the public that they are paying extra for the fact that they live extra. We've said that they need to do that. Guess what? They're doing that. This fee helps DoorDash preserve your access to available merchants farthest from you. To help ensure the quality of such deliveries, we offer consumers the option to access those merchants for an additional fee. So guess what? What do they do instead? They give us $2.25 and stack it and rely on the tips to entice the Dashers out and then keep the fees, because the fees should be being paid out in the base pay. This is all of how base pay would be paid, including the money paid by a merchant who is trying to get those transactions and orders fulfilled as well. And then there's an express fee. This fee applies when you select express delivery, not passed on to the Dasher either. When you select express delivery, DoorDash matches your order with a Dasher even more quickly than standard orders. Really? Huh. Because they never show that to us, They never let us know it's an express fee. They never tell us that we have to do anything extra. Never seen it, and it doesn't happen. Maybe that's why I get $6 or $4 on some orders. Maybe not. Who would know? Because DoorDash only tells the customer this to get them to pay extra. Well, I'm not paying anything extra to the Dashers. And that this extra pay doesn't come out in a tip. So all of you that are worried about tips are worried about the wrong darn thing. And you're worried, and you're worried about getting money out of a pool of money that is already tapped to the max. And DoorDash, because DoorDash is fee collecting the customer to death, keeping it all while keeping us worried about one thing, tips, which is absolutely not where the money really is. And then the regulatory response fee, which we would have nothing to do with, but these are fees that leads to higher operating costs for DoorDash. And it varies based on region, location, and state, and it's 10 cents to $3.40. And then other mandatory fees that government authorities might be required. Like, for instance, everyone who was saying, well, Prop 22 is costing DoorDash. No, they're charging it under the mandatory fees. It costs the customer more money. Ask someone who lives out there and gets DoorDash. The fees are very large out there because they're charging the customer, and that extra money is not coming from us. It's not from what's stealing from us and moving it over there like everybody likes to constantly say. You don't know what you're talking about. And not only that, but there's a note that this list of fees is not even an exhaustive list of fees, and they may be subject to change, and there could be extra and additional. And then on top of this, guys, what other charges might I pay when I place an order? Oh, well, look where DoorDash puts that with us. Estimated tax, and then look at the language used. All of you want to rely on a tip to make your money in the food delivery business. The last thing on the list is optional Dasher tip, meaning fee you don't have to pay. You've paid all these other fees, customer. The last thing you need to pay is the optional Dasher tip, which is every dollar you tip is an extra dollar in your Dasher's pocket. Meaning you've already put all that other money in the Dasher's pocket. No, you haven't, because DoorDash has kept it all. You are able to tip either at checkout or immediately after delivery. Dashers always receive 100% of tips, and tipping is completely optional. Isn't that nice? After you've made it appear that the Dasher's getting compensated for the extra distance, shorter orders, smaller orders, they're getting base pay, they're getting promo pay. Man, that Dasher must be really well paid. And then on top of that, there's an optional tip. Do you want to tip them? Well, no, they're getting all that other stuff. They should be pretty well paid, and the food's going to show up one way or another. No, what they are is enticed by a diamond program. They're enticed by any various other ways that doesn't include money in your bank account, and then you get paid $2.25. And then you go on the internet and you look like a fool complaining about it. So here you go, guys. Here's your evidence. Here's what I'm talking about. Here it is visually. If you can't read and you can't understand this after looking at this and going and seeing it for yourself, I can't help you. I'm sorry. And I don't mean that I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic, and this is what you're working with, which is why the only thing you can do when you ask, Dad, what is the solution? The solution is you don't move your car unless you're getting paid a proper amount of money that meets your expenses. And however that has to come, whether that's DoorDash giving you a really well-tipped order with a $2.25 base pay, or DoorDash has an under-tipped order that they have to add in extra base pay. They have the money to do it. The idea that DoorDash goes under tomorrow because they have to pay us extra is absolutely ridiculous. They are collecting a lot of money. They will have to simply shift where they're putting their money. They are putting their money in managing the information that they're bringing in on Dashers and mining the information. Paying software engineers to look at it and improve the algorithm which is supposed to go out and figure out how to entice you to work for less. So instead of working for less, and instead of feeding the algorithm less money every single time you work, because you think that somehow you're going to get more money by getting less money, which makes no freaking sense, because you can't get back what you already lost. Because every contract you've completed has already been completed, and you can never, ever go back and get what you lost on a negative contract. The only thing you can do is ask for more before you ever work in the first place. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully this made sense. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit that like button if you enjoyed today's video. Share this video, please. Share this with everyone that you can share it with. And as always, guys, stay safe, stay profitable, and Doordash will talk to you soon.